Victoria Vale saw another woman smiling from her marital bed. The photo had been posted 12 minutes earlier. A blonde influencer lay tangled in ivory sheets, one bare shoulder angled toward the camera, her lips curved in the lazy smile of someone who believed she had won. The caption was short: "Sunday mornings are sweeter when he finally comes home to me." Victoria sat still at the breakfast table, one hand around a cup of untouched coffee, the other holding her phone so lightly it almost slipped from her fingers. Her husband, Sebastian Vale, was supposed to be in Denver. He had kissed her forehead 3 nights ago, adjusted his navy tie in the hall mirror, and said the board wanted him there for an emergency acquisition meeting. He had smiled with that polished executive tenderness that once made donors open their checkbooks and reporters call him charming. Now Victoria stared at the photo and knew exactly where he had spent the weekend. Not because of the woman, because of the sheets. The ivory bedding was custom woven in Milan, with a faint silver monogram near the lower edge. Most people would never notice it. Victoria did. She had chosen the pattern herself 12 years ago, the week after their wedding, when she still believed a home could be made safe by taste, patience, and love. V&S. Victoria and Sebastian. The mistress had placed her manicured hand right beside the monogram. Victoria zoomed in. Her face did not change. Only her thumb trembled once, so slightly that even she almost missed it. Across the table, her mother-in-law's crystal fruit bowl reflected the morning light. Sebastian had insisted they keep it there, a gift from his mother, a woman who called Victoria plain when Sebastian was out of the room and practical when he was listening. Victoria set the phone on the table. For 3 seconds, there was nothing. No scream. No tears. No smashed cup. Just the city breathing beyond the penthouse windows, and a woman realizing that the life she had protected had been used as a stage for her humiliation. Then her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Sebastian. "Landing soon. Exhausted. Miss you." Victoria looked at the words. A laugh almost rose in her throat, but it died before becoming sound. He was not just cheating. He was comfortable. That was the insult that reached bone. The woman in the photo was named Marissa Wren. Victoria recognized her immediately. 28, luxury lifestyle influencer, the kind who posted champagne breakfasts, rented handbags, and soft-focus videos about becoming your highest self. She had appeared twice at Vale Global charity events, always hovering near Sebastian, laughing too brightly at remarks that were not funny. Victoria had noticed. Of course she had noticed. But in her world, noticing was not the same as reacting. She came from people who measured twice, signed once, and never wasted outrage where evidence would do better. She picked up her phone and opened Marissa's page again. The photo already had 17,000 likes. Comments bloomed beneath it. "Tell us his name." Finally, the mystery man. "This looks like a wife is about to have a bad day." Marissa had replied to the last comment with a wink. Victoria's eyes stopped there. That tiny yellow face, smug and careless, did what the photo had not. It made the room go cold. Victoria stood. The chair legs made a faint scrape against the marble floor. In the bedroom, she opened the wardrobe and took out a black wool suit. Not the soft gray dress Sebastian liked. Not the cream blouse his mother said made her look less severe. Black. Clean. Quiet. Final. As she buttoned the jacket, she watched her reflection in the mirror. 37 years old. Dark auburn hair pinned low at the neck. Green eyes that people often mistook for calm until they learned calm could be sharpened. No dramatic beauty. No influencer glow. Just a woman men underestimated because she did not need to announce her value. Sebastian used to call her his anchor. Now she understood he had meant wait. At 7:08, her assistant called. Natalie's voice was careful. "Victoria, I am sorry to bother you this early, but there is a situation online." "I saw it." Natalie went silent. Victoria walked to the window. Below, Manhattan was turning gold in the early light. Buses hissed. Cabs moved like bright insects. Screens flashed advertisements over thousands of strangers who were about to begin their ordinary day. Victoria said, "Cancel my 10 o'clock. Of course. And find out who owns the digital ad sequence at Columbus Circle this week." Natalie paused. "The large one above the north entrance?" "Yes. There is a fashion campaign running there." "By the slot beneath it." Natalie understood faster than most people. That was why Victoria paid her well and trusted her with silence. "How soon?" "Before 9. "What copy?" Victoria looked back at the photo, at Marissa's smile, at the monogram she had dared to display. 5 words, Victoria said. He cheated in my bed. Chapter 2. Sebastian Vale had built his public life on controlled entrances. He entered boardrooms after everyone else was seated. He entered galas through side doors so photographers could turn together. He entered arguments late, calm, and certain that his voice would become the weather in the room. But at 9:12 that morning, he entered his own scandal without warning. His car was turning past Columbus Circle when traffic slowed. At first he looked up only because his driver cursed under his breath. Then Sebastian saw the billboard. Marissa's sponsored image filled the upper screen, glowing in expensive morning light. She was selling a luxury sleepwear collaboration, though the city was not looking at the fabric. 5 seconds later, the lower screen changed. Black background, white letters, no logo, no name. He cheated in my bed. The words hung beneath Marissa like a verdict. Pedestrians stopped. Phones lifted. A cyclist nearly collided with a delivery van. Someone laughed so sharply it cut through the glass of Sebastian's car. Sebastian's face drained. Call the agency, he snapped. His driver blinked in the mirror. Sir? The ad agency. Now. But before the driver could answer, Sebastian's phone began vibrating. First his chief of staff. Then his partner. Then his mother. Then Marissa. He ignored Marissa. He called Victoria. It rang once. Then went to voicemail. The screen looped again. Marissa smiling. He cheated in my bed. Sebastian felt the first real flicker of fear. Not because he was ashamed. Shame required accepting guilt. He was afraid because Victoria had never been public. Victoria did not post cryptic quotes. Victoria did not cry in bathrooms at parties. Victoria did not fight women in comment sections. Victoria documented. And when Victoria moved, she moved with structure. By 9:30, the image was everywhere. Office workers shared it in elevators. Gossip accounts circled the monogram. A real estate blog identified the bedroom as the Vale penthouse from a design magazine feature 3 years earlier. Someone found a photo of Sebastian and Marissa standing too close at a foundation gala. The internet did what the internet always did when it smelled arrogance. It built a courtroom before lunch. At 10:02, Marissa arrived at Vale Global's private entrance wearing oversized sunglasses and a white coat that looked expensive enough to be borrowed. Her lips were pale beneath gloss. She pushed past the receptionist as if confidence could still function as a key. Sebastian was in his office with the blinds half drawn, one hand pressed to his forehead. You said she was boring, Marissa hissed as soon as the door closed. You said she did not care what you did. Sebastian looked up. That is what you are worried about? My face is on a billboard with a cheating accusation under it. No one used your name. They do not need to. My comments are a war zone. My skincare sponsor paused my campaign. My agency wants a call. Sebastian stood too quickly. Then maybe you should not have posted from my house. Marissa stared at him. Your house, she said. That is what you're going with. His jaw tightened. This is not the time. It was the time. It was exactly the time. For the first time since she had met him, Marissa saw the calculation under his charm and realized she had never been the exception. She had been a room he entered when the main house felt inconvenient. You told me she knew you were done, Marissa said. Sebastian said nothing. You told me the marriage was basically over. Still nothing. Her sunglasses slipped down her nose. Her eyes were glossy, furious, frightened. Sebastian, did you lie to me? He looked toward the window, where the city beyond the glass seemed to be watching. I told you what was necessary, he said. Marissa took one step back as if he had pushed her. At that same moment, Victoria sat 4 miles away in the headquarters of Meridian House, a company most people thought she merely consulted for. That was Sebastian's first mistake. He had never cared enough to understand what Victoria owned. Meridian House held outdoor advertising contracts in 7 major cities, digital publishing platforms with a combined monthly reach of 60 million, and a quiet network of brand partnerships powerful enough to make a person's reputation expand or evaporate. Victoria did not work for Meridian. She controlled it through Ashbourne Trust, the private family office her grandfather had built long before Sebastian learned to knot a tie. Sebastian knew Victoria came from old money. He did not know the size of it. He had called it background wealth, as if a fortune became smaller when a woman did not brag. Natalie entered Victoria's office carrying a tablet. The ad is trending in 8 countries, she said. Legal confirms we are protected. We used only text in our slot. Marissa's image is her paid campaign. Victoria nodded. Any statement from Sebastian? None. From Marissa? 3 deleted stories. 1 crying selfie. No official comment. Victoria almost smiled. Almost. Tell legal to preserve everything. The post, comments, campaign records, timestamps, all agency communications. Already done. And ask Lionel to come in. Natalie looked up. The divorce attorney? Victoria picked up her coffee at last. It was cold now. Yes, she said. But not for divorce yet. Then for what? Victoria turned her chair toward the skyline. For discovery. Chapter 3. Sebastian arrived at Meridian House at 11:18 with the expression of a man who had mistaken panic for authority. Security let him into the lobby because his name still opened many doors in Manhattan. It did not open Victoria's office. He stood beneath the 20-foot glass wall, surrounded by employees pretending not to stare, while Natalie approached with a polite smile. Mrs. Vale is in a meeting. Sebastian's mouth tightened. I am her husband. Natalie's smile did not move. I know. Tell her I am here. She knows. The pause that followed was small and humiliating. A junior copywriter looked down at her laptop too late. Someone near the elevators coughed into his fist. Sebastian felt heat climb up his neck. After 7 minutes, the elevator behind reception opened. Victoria stepped out. She wore black. No visible jewelry except her wedding ring, which made Sebastian's stomach twist because it suddenly looked less like a symbol and more like evidence. He moved toward her. Victoria. She did not slow down. Conference room. Not here. Exactly, she said and walked past him. Inside the conference room, she sat first. Sebastian hated that. He had always sat first. He closed the door harder than necessary. Take it down. Victoria folded her hands on the table. Take what down? Do not do this. The ad. The accusation. Her eyes lifted to his. Is it false? His mouth opened. No answer came. Victoria waited. That was one of her most unnerving gifts. She could let silence grow until another person either told the truth or revealed why they could not. Sebastian pulled out a chair and sat. You are humiliating both of us. No, Victoria said. I am correcting the audience. He flinched. She posted from our bed, Sebastian. Not a hotel. Not a rented apartment. Our bed. Our home. The place where our children come on Saturday mornings to crawl under the covers and ask for pancakes. At the mention of the children, his face shifted. Do not bring them into this. You did. He leaned forward. It was a mistake. Victoria's gaze dropped to his hand. No wedding ring. He had removed it. One weekend can be a mistake, she said. A year of hotel invoices, jewelry purchases, private flights, and payments routed through a consulting line is not a mistake. It is an operating system. Sebastian stopped breathing for half a second. What are you talking about? Victoria opened a folder and slid one page across the table. He looked down. An invoice from a boutique hotel in Aspen. 2 names. Sebastian Vale and Marissa Wren. Paid through Vale Global's executive development account. His eyes flicked up. Victoria slid another page. A Cartier receipt. Another. A lease agreement for an apartment in Tribeca. Another. A private car account with repeated late-night routes between the penthouse and Marissa's building. Sebastian's face changed with each page. Irritation first. Then calculation. Then a fear much more honest than apology. You had me followed? No. Your arrogance left paperwork. This is private. Så was my bedruim. He stared at her. For the first time in 12 years, Sebastian had no line ready. Victoria leaned back. The ad stays through Wednesday. The legal audit begins today. You will not return to the penthouse without written agreement. You will not contact the children without our family coordinator present until we establish what they know and what they have seen. You will not use company accounts for personal cleanup. And you will not threaten my staff again in my lobby. Your lobby? There it was. The small, stunned arrogance that had survived even this morning. Victoria smiled, but it was not warm. Yes, Sebastian. My lobby. He laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. Meridian handles some of our media buys. You advise them. I own them. The words landed without drama. Sebastian blinked. What? Victoria took one more document from the folder and turned it toward him. Ashbourne Trust's ownership summary. Meridian House. Meridian Outdoor. Northline Digital. A controlling stake in the ad network currently running his mistress's face over the city. Sebastian stared at the numbers. People often imagine power as loud. Victoria's had always been quiet enough to be mistaken for absence. You never asked, she said. His fingers tightened around the paper. Victoria. No. He looked up. She removed her wedding ring and placed it on the table between them. The small sound it made against the wood seemed louder than the traffic 30 floors below. You do not get to say my name like it is a door that still opens. Chapter 4. Marissa tried to reclaim the story at 1 p.m. She went live from her apartment, positioned herself in front of pale curtains, and made sure the light touched her cheekbones like mercy. I have stayed silent because I never wanted to hurt anyone, she began. Within 30 seconds, 70,000 people were watching. Marissa's voice shook at the right moments. She said she had been misled. She said powerful wives often blamed younger women because it was easier than facing a broken marriage. She said she did not deserve to be publicly shamed by a woman with money and influence. She did not mention the bed. She did not mention the wink. She did not mention that she had posted hints for months because secrets were more profitable when followers could smell them. Victoria watched the live stream from her office with Natalie and Lionel Graves, her attorney. Lionel was in his 60s, silver-haired, calm, and devastating in court because he never raised his voice. He took notes while Marissa cried. She's positioning as victim, Natalie said. Of course she is, Victoria replied. Do we respond? Not emotionally. Lionel looked over his glasses. Contractually? Victoria nodded. Contractually. 2 hours later, Marissa's agency received a letter. It was not from Victoria as a wife. It was from Meridian House's legal department. Marissa had violated 3 clauses in her sleepwear campaign agreement. The bedroom image contained an undisclosed personal relationship that created reputational risk for the brand. The caption implied endorsement by an unnamed partner without clearance. Most importantly, the campaign had been shot in a private residence without location release. By 5 p.m., the brand terminated the campaign. By 5:20, Marissa's agency suspended representation pending review. By 6 o'clock, her live stream had been clipped into 1,000 reactions, most of them pausing on the moment she said, "I never wanted attention." Someone placed that line beside 6 months of her posts about mystery gifts, midnight views, and a man's hand wearing Sebastian's watch. The internet did not forgive hypocrisy when screenshots existed. That evening, Sebastian called Victoria 14 times. She answered on the 15th. His voice came through rough. "You are destroying her." Victoria stood in the penthouse bedroom while movers packed Sebastian's suits under legal supervision. "No," she said. "Her contracts are responding to her choices. She is 28. Victoria glanced at the bed, now stripped down to the mattress. "Old enough to pose in another woman's home. You are acting like you are innocent in this." Victoria's hand stilled. There it was. The pivot. When guilt could not defend itself, it looked for fingerprints on the victim. "Explain that, Sebastian. You cared more about your image than this marriage. You were always busy, always controlled. Do you know how lonely it was being married to someone who never needed me?" For a moment, the room seemed to narrow. Victoria had expected lies. She had expected apologies. She had not expected him to turn her competence into a crime. Then she breathed once, slowly. "You were not lonely," she said. "You were bored by a woman you could not dominate." He said nothing. "You wanted admiration without accountability. Marissa gave you that. I gave you a life." "Victoria." She looked at the movers carrying his garment bags through the doorway. "Your things will be delivered to the Mercer apartment by 9. The locks changed at noon. You cannot lock me out of my own home. I can when the deed is in Ashbourne Trust's name, and you signed the residence agreement in 2018. Another silence. He had signed it because he thought paperwork was Victoria's hobby. "You planned this," he whispered. "No, Sebastian. I protected myself long before I needed to." She ended the call. For the first time that day, her eyes burned. Not because she missed him, because she finally understood how much of herself she had made smaller just to keep peace with a man who called her small anyway. Chapter 5. The first school call came before lunch. Victoria was reviewing the apartment lease Sebastian had guaranteed for Marissa when Lily's headmistress asked for a private conversation. The woman's voice was careful, polished by years of speaking to wealthy parents who believed tuition purchased control over reality. "Mrs. Vale," she said, "there has been some discussion among the older students." Victoria closed her eyes for 1 second. "About the billboard. And the photograph, yes. We removed phones during homeroom, but one of the girls showed Lily a screenshot before class." Victoria's hand tightened around the pen. "What did Lily do?" "She said, 'That is my mother's room,' and then she asked to go to the nurse." The sentence hit harder than any comment under Marissa's post. Adults could perform cruelty and call it narrative. Children received it raw. Victoria stood so quickly her chair rolled back from the desk. I am coming now. Natalie looked up from the sofa. The audit call is in 20 minutes. Move it. The car ride to school took 14 minutes. Victoria spent all 14 refusing to call Sebastian, because the first instinct of hurt people is often to make the guilty person witness the damage. But Lily did not need her father dragged into the hallway as a spectacle. Lily needed one adult who was not performing. She found her daughter in the nurse's office, small beneath a pale blanket, her brown hair stuck to one damp cheek. Lily was not crying anymore. That almost hurt more. Children who stop crying too soon are usually trying to protect someone. Mom, Lily whispered. Victoria crossed the room and knelt beside her. I am here. Was that lady really in your bed? The nurse looked away. The headmistress folded her hands. Victoria felt the weight of every adult in the room, wishing the question had been softer. Yes, Victoria said. Lily's lower lip trembled. Did Dad bring her? Yes. Why? Victoria stroked Lily's hair. Because he made a wrong and hurtful choice. That choice belongs to him. It does not belong to you. Lily stared at the blanket. Kid said she was prettier than you. For the first time that morning, Victoria wanted to break something. Not because a child had repeated a cruel sentence, but because Sebastian's affair had invited strangers to compare a wife and a mistress as if the prize were a man who had failed them both. She took Lily's hands. Listen to me. A woman's value is not decided by who someone chooses to betray her with. Beauty does not make betrayal less ugly. Youth does not make disrespect powerful. And your father did not hurt me because another woman was better. He hurt me because he was selfish. Lily blinked. Are you sad? Yes. Are you scared? Sometimes. Are we leaving our house? No, sweetheart. He is leaving the house. You and Max are safe. The answer steadied both of them. When Victoria returned to Meridian House with Lily asleep in the back seat, something inside her had changed shape. The billboard had been a response to humiliation. The next moves would be protection. She called Dr. Helena Frost, the family therapist she had once used after Max's anxiety attacks during Sebastian's first long stretch of travel. Then she called the security director for the penthouse, the children's school counselor, and Lionel. By 2 p.m., Sebastian's direct access to the children's schedules had been paused through the shared calendar system. Not because Victoria wanted to punish him, because reporters, influencers, and angry strangers had begun circling the schools online, and Sebastian had already shown that he could not separate impulse from consequence. By 3 o'clock, the penthouse locks were changed under the residence agreement. By 4 o'clock, the children had therapy appointments. By 5 o'clock, Victoria had a written parenting communication protocol drafted for council. Sebastian called at 5:13. You locked me out of the school app. His voice was low and dangerous. Temporary security measure. I am their father. Then act like the title means more than access. Do not weaponize my children. Victoria stood at the window of her office, watching the evening screens ignite across the city. You brought a public scandal into their home. I am removing loose matches. He laughed once bitterly. You always do this. You turn everything into policy, so you never have to feel. The insult was old. He had used different versions for years. Too controlled. Too careful. Too cold. It had taken Victoria too long to understand that some men call women cold when they cannot make them easy to manipulate. I feel enough to protect them properly, she said. You are making me look like a monster. No, Sebastian. I am making you look documented. She ended the call before he could turn wounded pride into another speech. That evening, Natalie brought her a second folder from forensic accounting. Unlike the first folder, this one was not about hotel rooms or jewelry. It was about structure. Vail Global had used 3 vendor accounts for donor events in the previous 18 months. 2 were legitimate. The third, Ren Creative Strategy, had billed for brand consulting, talent research, and guest experience design. The invoices were vague. The deliverables were thinner than mist. The banking trail was not. Marissa's manager had formed the company. Marissa had received payments through it. Sebastian had approved the invoices. Victoria read each page without speaking. Natalie waited. Finally, Victoria asked, Did any of this touch the Children's Art Fund? Natalie's face changed. One gala did. The invoice was routed through the same event budget, but we cannot prove the restricted donations paid it until Priya gets the internal allocation file. Victoria's stomach went cold. The Children's Art Fund had been her favorite part of the Vail Foundation, not because it looked good in photographs, but because the first grant had gone to a public school in Queens where the music room ceiling leaked, and the art teacher bought paper with her own money. Victoria had sat on the floor with third graders while Sebastian posed with donors near the step and repeat. If he had used that fund to finance Marissa's fantasy of becoming a luxury brand consultant, the affair was no longer only a betrayal. It was theft wearing cologne. Get Priya everything she needs, Victoria said. Natalie nodded. And if Sebastian tries to block access? Then Ashbourne triggers the lender clause before the investor reception. Natalie studied her. That will force a board crisis. Victoria closed the folder. He should have thought of the board before he let his mistress photograph the evidence. The next morning brought Marissa's second mistake. She sent Victoria a direct message. It was not an apology. It was worse. A negotiation written by someone who still believed attention was leverage. I know you are hurt, but dragging this out will damage everyone. Sebastian told me you two lived separate lives. I am willing to say publicly that I misunderstood the situation if you stop attacking my career. I will also refrain from discussing what he told me about your marriage. Victoria read it twice. Then she forwarded it to Lionel with one line. Preserve as attempted pressure. Lionel replied within a minute. Already drafted. By noon, Marissa's counsel received a notice instructing her not to delete communications, not to imply confidential marital details as leverage, and not to contact Victoria directly again. It was written in Lionel's elegant legal language, which made every polite sentence feel like a door locking. Marissa did not reply. Her mother did. A woman named Carol Wren called Meridian's public line and somehow bullied 3 assistants until Natalie took the call. Natalie put it on speaker because she believed Victoria deserved the full absurdity. My daughter is being destroyed by that bitter woman, Carol said. Sebastian pursued her. He promised her a life. Your boss is rich enough to move on. Victoria, sitting across the room, lifted her eyes. Natalie said, Mrs. Wren, this line is for business inquiries. This is business. My daughter lost 2 contracts. Your daughter posted from another woman's bed during a paid campaign period. She is young. She is 27. She made a mistake. Victoria stood and walked to Natalie's desk. Natalie raised an eyebrow, asking silently whether she wanted the call. Victoria shook her head. She wanted to hear how far entitlement could stretch when dressed as motherhood. Carol continued, a wife with class would handle this privately. Natalie's voice turned cool. A woman with sense would teach her daughter not to confuse another woman's silence with an empty room. Then she ended the call. Victoria looked at her. That was not in the media training manual. Natalie straightened her blazer. I will update the manual. For the first time since Monday, Victoria laughed. It was brief, rusty, and almost painful, but it was real. That small laugh mattered. It reminded her that she was not only a betrayed wife, not only a strategist, not only a mother holding herself upright for children watching too closely. She was still a person who could laugh with someone loyal in a room where no one was lying. The feeling lasted until Priya called. We found the allocation file, she said. Victoria's fingers tightened around the phone. And? Restricted funds were not directly transferred to Wren Creative. But Sebastian reclassified unrestricted donor money to cover shortfalls after the Wren invoices inflated the gala budget. It is legal gray at best. Governance breach at minimum. Can the board remove him? If he refuses leave, yes. Victoria looked at the city. The lower billboard was visible from her office if she stood at the right angle. 6 words still blinked beneath the plaza lights. Then give him the choice, she said. Leave quietly or be removed loudly. Priya was silent for a moment. You know him. Which will he choose? Victoria watched the screen change. Loudly. She was right. Sebastian rejected administrative leave that night. His email to the board was long, offended, and fatally careless. He accused Victoria of emotional retaliation. He accused Priya of overreach. He accused Graham of cowardice. He accused the lender of exploiting a private family crisis. He did not address the invoices with anything stronger than the phrase routine categorization dispute. By morning, every director had read it. By afternoon, the emergency agenda for the investor reception was set. And by evening, Victoria returned to the penthouse, walked into the room where the old bed had been removed, and found the new mattress waiting under plain white sheets. No monogram. No initials. She sat on the edge and let herself cry for exactly 4 minutes. Not because she was weak. Because she had been strong all day in rooms that charged interest for composure. Then she washed her face, checked on Lily, listened outside Max's door until she heard his steady breathing, and went back to work. Chapter 6. By Wednesday morning, Sebastian's scandal had become a business problem. Vale Global's annual investor breakfast was supposed to be his victory lap. He had planned to announce a luxury waterfront development, raise a new fund, and pose for photographs with city officials who preferred their money clean and their scandals distant. Instead, he walked into the Grand Mercer Hotel and saw people stop talking. That was worse than whispering. Whispers had motion. Silence had judgment. His partner, Graham Pierce, met him near the ballroom doors. Graham was broad-shouldered, gray-eyed, and furious in the contained way of men who counted damage in dollars. "Tell me there is nothing else," Graham said. Sebastian adjusted his cuff. "This is personal." Graham leaned close. Personal became financial when our largest pension client asked whether company funds paid for your mistress's apartment. Sebastian's pulse kicked. Who told them that? No one had to tell them. Victoria's attorney requested records. That alone is enough to make people nervous. Inside the ballroom, screens displayed Vale Global's logo. Servers moved between tables with coffee. Investors watched Sebastian like they were waiting to see whether smoke would become flame. Then the hotel screens flickered. For one impossible second, Sebastian thought Victoria had done it again. But this time it was not an accusation. It was a scheduled media segment from Meridian Business, one of the largest financial platforms in the city. The headline filled the screens. Executive misuse of company funds. Why private scandals become investor risk. No names. No photo. No direct accusation. But the timing was surgical. The segment began with a comm anchor discussing fiduciary duties, undisclosed liabilities, and morality clauses in partnership agreements. As she spoke, investors began checking their phones. Graham slowly turned toward Sebastian. "Did you know Meridian owned the broadcast rights here?" Sebastian did not answer. At table 6, a woman from Northridge Capital stood and buttoned her jacket. "Mr. Vale," she said, "I think we will postpone our commitment pending audit clarity." Another investor stood. Then another. The room did not explode. It emptied. That was the kind of humiliation Sebastian could not charm away. Across town, Victoria did not watch the breakfast. She was in a family court consultant's office, speaking about her children. Lily was 10. Max was 7. They knew only that their father would not be living at home for a while, and that both parents loved them. Victoria had refused to turn them into messengers, props, or emotional witnesses. The consultant, Dr. Elaine Porter, reviewed her notes. "You are handling this with unusual restraint," she said. Victoria looked down at her hands. "I am angry every minute." "Restraint does not mean absence of anger." "No," Victoria said softly. "It means I will not make my children pay for it." That was the line she would not cross, no matter how satisfying it might feel to watch Sebastian suffer in front of everyone. She wanted justice, not collateral damage. When she returned to Meridian, Natalie was waiting with news. Northridge pulled out. 2 more investors delayed. Graham Pierce called Lionel directly. Victoria removed her coat. What did he want? A private meeting without Sebastian. Victoria nodded. Schedule it. Natalie hesitated. There is something else. She handed Victoria a printed message. It was from Eleanor Vale, Sebastian's mother. You have embarrassed this family enough. A decent wife protects her husband's name. Fix this before I am forced to speak. Victoria read it twice. Then she reached for a pen and wrote one sentence beneath it. A decent husband gives his wife a name worth protecting. She handed it back to Natalie. Send that. For the first time all week, Natalie laughed. Chapter 7. Eleanor Vale arrived at Victoria's office the next morning wearing pearls like armor. She did not request an appointment. Women like Eleanor considered appointments a courtesy other people owed them. Natalie blocked her at reception with a gentleness that only made the insult sharper. Mrs. Vale, Victoria is available for 10 minutes. Eleanor's mouth pinched. Victoria? Mrs. Vale prefers not to be interrupted during legal review. I am her mother-in-law. Natalie smiled. For now. When Eleanor entered the office, Victoria was standing at the window, reading a document. She did not rush. She did not greet her with a kiss on the cheek as she once had, accepting cold perfume and colder judgment. Eleanor looked around the office with open disdain. So this is where you planned your little spectacle. Victoria turned. Good morning, Eleanor. Do not good morning me. You have dragged my son through filth. Victoria placed the document on her desk. Sebastian dragged himself. I only provided lighting. Eleanor's eyes flashed. You were never grateful for him. Do you know how many women wanted my son? At least one too many. This is not clever. No, Victoria said. It is accurate. Eleanor stepped closer. You think because you have your family's money, you can destroy people. Victoria watched her carefully. There it was, the truth beneath 12 years of polished insult. Eleanor had always known Victoria had money. She simply believed women with money should spend it quietly supporting men's ambitions. I am not destroying anyone, Victoria said. I am withdrawing protection. Protection? Vale Global's first 3 investor introductions came from my family office. Sebastian's Art Foundation survives on Meridian's donated media. Your charity luncheon has used my venue for 6 years without paying market rate. Graham Pierce's expansion loan was guaranteed by Ashbourne Trust. Shall I continue? Eleanor went still. Victoria opened a folder and turned it toward her. Inside were letters terminating complimentary sponsorships, venue agreements, donor introductions, and advisory services. All proper, all legal, all devastating. Eleanor looked as if someone had pulled the floor from under her shoes. You would ruin charities to punish Sebastian? No. I am moving my donations to organizations that do not require me to pretend betrayal is elegance. Eleanor's throat worked. Victoria, this family gave you status. The last thread snapped so quietly it almost sounded like peace. Victoria leaned forward, palms on the desk. Eleanor, I bought the building where you hosted that status. For several seconds, Eleanor said nothing. Her pearls gleamed against her throat. Her lipstick sat perfectly on a mouth that had finally run out of superiority. When she left, she did not slam the door. People like Eleanor only slammed doors when they knew someone else would reopen them. Victoria did not. That afternoon, Graham Pierce came without Sebastian. He looked older than he had 3 days earlier. His expensive suit could not hide the exhaustion in his shoulders. Victoria, he said, I am here to separate the company from Sebastian's personal conduct. She sat across from him. Then separate it. Graham inhaled. We are willing to buy out his voting interest if he agrees to step down from daily operations. And if he refuses? Graham's jaw tightened. Then the audit will force the issue. Victoria studied him. Graham had never liked her. He had dismissed her in meetings, called her risk-averse, and once told Sebastian that wives with trust funds should not advise men building real value. Now he sat in her office asking her to help save that value. Victoria did not gloat. Gloating wasted energy. I will support the company if Sebastian is removed from financial control, she said. Full audit. Public governance statement. Repayment of misused funds. Independent oversight for 12 months. Graham nodded slowly. And you? I want my capital guarantee released. His face tightened. That guarantee is why our lending rate exists. Victoria held his gaze. I know. By 5 p.m., Sebastian received the proposal. He read it in the Mercer apartment, alone, while the afternoon light exposed dust on furniture he had never chosen. Step down. Repay funds. Accept limited equity conversion. Submit to audit. He called Graham first. Graham did not pick up. Then his mother. She told him to fix what he had done and hung up crying. Then Marissa. Her number was disconnected. At last, he called Victoria. She answered. You are taking everything, he said. No, Sebastian. I am taking back what was mine. You loved me once. Yes. The simplicity of the answer seemed to hurt him more than rage would have. Then why are you doing this? Victoria looked through the glass wall at her team working late, at the city pulsing beyond them, at the life she had almost let shrink around one man's ego. Because I loved myself last, she said. I am correcting the order. Chapter 8. Sebastian's next move arrived dressed as fatherhood. On Monday morning, Lionel received an emergency filing asking the court to restrict Victoria from making further public statements about the marriage. The motion claimed the billboard and media attention had caused emotional distress to the children. It asked for shared residential custody during the divorce proceedings and implied that Victoria's public response showed poor judgment. Lionel read the motion in Victoria's office without changing expression. He is trying to turn your protection plan into proof of instability, he said. Victoria stood beside the window with a school drawing in her hand. Lily had made it during therapy. 4 stick figures stood under a roof. One figure was outside the door, smaller than the others, not erased but not inside. Can he win? Not on this record. But he can create pressure. Pressure was Sebastian's favorite tool. He applied it until people accepted relief as generosity. Victoria set the drawing on her desk. Then we answer with structure. The response filed that afternoon was not emotional. It was chronological. Lionel attached the original bed selfie, Marissa's caption, Sebastian's travel lie, the direct message from Marissa, the school incident report, Dr. Frost's preliminary recommendation, and the residence agreement showing why the penthouse lock change was legal. He also attached Victoria's instruction that Meridian publications avoid attacking Marissa's appearance or encouraging harassment. The argument was simple. Sebastian created the public risk. Victoria responded to it, contained it, and built safeguards for the children. At the temporary hearing, Sebastian tried to look wounded. He wore a dark suit and no pocket square. His lawyer spoke first, painting him as a father desperate to see his children, while a powerful wife used money and media connections to control the narrative. Victoria listened without moving. Her hands rested in her lap. She had learned that in court, even blinking at the wrong moment could become character in someone else's story. Then Lionel stood. "Your Honor," he said, "my client did not invite the public into the marital bedroom. Ms. Wren's post did that. Mr. Vale did not immediately seek privacy to protect his children. He first sought removal of the billboard that embarrassed him. The children were protected after the school was affected, after online attention increased, and after Mr. Vale's own conduct made ordinary access unsafe." The judge looked over the documents. "Mr. Vale, did you bring Ms. Wren to the marital residence?" Sebastian's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Did you tell your wife you were traveling for business at that time?" "Yes." "Did Ms. Wren post from that residence?" "Yes, but I did not authorize the post." The judge looked at him over her glasses. "You authorized the presence." The courtroom went very still. Victoria did not smile. She did not need to. The truth had done its work. The temporary order kept the children primarily with Victoria, required all parenting communication through a monitored app, and directed both parents to follow Dr. Frost's recommendations. Sebastian received scheduled visitation, but no overnight stays until the therapist and parenting coordinator approved a transition plan. Outside the courthouse, Sebastian caught up with Victoria near the elevator. "You're enjoying this," he said. She turned. "No. You got exactly what you wanted. What I wanted was a husband who did not bring another woman into the bed where our children ask for pancakes on Saturdays." His face changed just briefly. Pain passed through him, but it was tangled with pride and therefore still dangerous. "I made one terrible mistake." Victoria shook her head. "You keep calling it one, because counting all of them would require honesty." The elevator opened. She stepped inside with Lionel. Sebastian remained in the hall, separated by polished doors and everything he had refused to name. That night, Marissa made her third mistake. She sold a statement to a celebrity newsletter. In it, she claimed Sebastian had promised her he was separated. She said Victoria's wealth made it impossible for an ordinary young woman to defend herself. She hinted that the famous bed selfie had not been the first time she had stayed in the penthouse. The final line was meant to wound. Some wives know more than they admit, because the money matters more than the marriage. Victoria read the newsletter after the children were asleep. For several seconds, she felt nothing. Then she opened the archive Natalie had built. There were months of receipts, screenshots, flight manifests, messages, a photograph of Marissa at the penthouse elevator from the building's security system, carrying a garment bag on a Thursday afternoon while Victoria was at Lily's school concert. Another from the garage, Sebastian's hand at the small of Marissa's back. Another of Marissa wearing the diamond earrings purchased through the foundation account. Natalie called before Victoria could call her. "Tell me we are not publishing everything," Natalie said. "We are not publishing everything." "Good. We are publishing one timeline." Natalie went silent. Victoria continued. "No insults. No speculation. Dates, public posts, contract breaches, and the legal record. Anything involving the children stays out. Anything intimate stays out. Anything already in public or in business records can stand." Meridian's editorial standards team built the timeline in 6 hours. Lionel reviewed it twice. It went live at 8 o'clock the next morning under a headline that did not call Marissa names and did not call Sebastian a monster. The headline was colder than that. What the records show. The timeline ended Marissa's victim performance without turning Victoria into a woman swinging wildly from pain. Sponsors saw dates. Investors saw accounts. The public saw the difference between a wife exposing the truth and a mistress trying to sell fragments of it for sympathy. By noon, the newsletter that had bought Marissa's statement issued a correction. By 3, Marissa deleted her account. By 5, Sebastian's lawyer requested settlement talks. Victoria sat in her office as rain blurred the windows. Natalie entered with coffee. He wants to talk money now. No, Victoria said, accepting the cup. He wants to talk before the next document talks for him. Lionel arrived 10 minutes later with a settlement outline. Sebastian would resign from Vale Global. He would repay misused funds according to a secured schedule. He would accept temporary parenting limits. He would not challenge the penthouse residence agreement. He would not attempt to interfere with the evidence room or Meridian's lawful reporting. In exchange, Victoria would not oppose a confidential resolution of certain board matters if restitution was made and no restricted charitable funds were proven directly diverted. That clause mattered. Victoria wanted accountability, not chaos that harmed employees and grantees who had done nothing wrong. Lionel tapped the page. This is the cleanest path. Victoria read every line. Clean did not mean painless. It meant no loose wire left for Sebastian to pull later. Send it, she said. For the first time all week, the room felt less like a command center and more like an exit. Chapter 9. The divorce filing became public on Friday. Not because Victoria leaked it, because Sebastian tried to stop it. His emergency motion requested privacy protections, claiming public scrutiny had made fair proceedings impossible. Lionel Graves responded with a brief so clean and cold that 3 legal reporters quoted it by noon. The petitioner did not create the respondent's conduct. She merely ceased concealing it. That sentence traveled faster than any official statement. By then, Marissa had disappeared from her usual online platforms. Her last post showed a candle, a journal, and the words healing privately. The comments were not kind. Sebastian, however, chose a different strategy. He went on morning television. Victoria watched from her kitchen, wearing a sweater and jeans, while Lily ate cereal at the island and Max built a tower from toast triangles. On screen, Sebastian looked tired in a way that had probably taken a stylist 30 minutes to perfect. His tie was modest. His eyes were wet. I failed my family, he said. I failed my wife. Victoria is an extraordinary woman, and I hope someday she can forgive me. The host leaned in, hungry for softness. Do you still love her? Sebastian lowered his eyes. I never stopped. Victoria turned off the television before Lily could ask another question. Too late. Mom, Lily said, is Dad sad because he did something bad? Victoria sat beside her daughter. Your dad is sad because choices have consequences. Is he bad? Victoria felt the carefulness of the moment. One wrong sentence could become a stone in a child's chest. No, sweetheart. People are not only one thing. But good people still have to repair harm when they cause it. Lily looked at her bowl. Are you sad? Victoria touched her daughter's hair. Sometimes. Max looked up from his toast tower. Are we still having pancakes tomorrow? Victoria smiled for real. Absolutely. That was the life she chose. Not drama. Not endless reaction. Pancakes. School forms. Therapy appointments. Lawyers. Board votes. Bedtime stories. The unglamorous work of building a peaceful home from the wreckage of a public one. But public life was not finished with her. 2 days after Sebastian's television apology, producers from the same show requested Victoria. She declined. They requested again. She declined again. Then Sebastian's interview began spreading under captions asking whether Victoria would forgive him, whether modern women were too quick to leave, whether public accountability had gone too far. That was when Victoria accepted. She arrived at the studio in a navy dress, hair loose, makeup simple. No diamonds. No armor. Only clarity. The host greeted her with visible excitement. Victoria, thank you for being here. Millions watched Sebastian's apology. Many people felt it was sincere. Did you? Victoria looked at the host, then at the camera. I believe regret can be sincere. The host leaned forward. Does that mean there is hope? Victoria's expression softened, but her voice stayed steady. Regret is not repair. An apology is not a key. Love does not give someone permanent access to the person they harmed. The studio became very quiet. She continued. I do not hate my husband. I will not teach my children to hate their father. But I also will not teach my daughter that dignity means staying where you have been publicly disrespected. And I will not teach my son that remorse matters more than accountability. The host blinked. So what happens now? Victoria turned slightly toward the camera. Now I build a life where peace is not payment for silence. The clip became the defining moment of the scandal. Not the bed selfie. Not the billboard. Not Sebastian's apology. Victoria's sentence. Peace is not payment for silence. Women repeated it under breakup videos, divorce announcements, resignation letters, and posts about mothers, bosses, friends, and marriages that demanded quiet suffering in exchange for temporary approval. Meridian's traffic tripled overnight. Natalie walked into Victoria's office the next morning with a look that was half awe, half logistical panic. "We have a problem." Victoria looked up. "Which kind?" "The kind where 2 million women are asking what you are building next." Victoria sat back. For the first time since the photo, she felt something that was not pain, strategy, or restraint. She felt purpose. Chapter 10. Victoria named the platform the evidence room. Not because women should remain quiet, because every powerful decision she had ever made began at a table where someone expected her to sit politely and absorb disrespect. The evidence room would become a media platform, legal resource network, and private community for women rebuilding after betrayal, financial control, public humiliation, or divorce. It would publish stories, fund consultations, connect women with vetted attorneys, and teach them how to document before reacting. No revenge fantasies without structure. No public breakdowns turned into content for strangers. Just evidence, options, and the kind of dignity that could survive court. At the launch meeting, Victoria stood before 20 employees in Meridian's largest conference room. Some had worked for her for years, and only now understood that the reserved woman who approved budgets with a pencil behind her ear had been quietly holding a media empire together. She looked at their faces and felt the weight of responsibility. "We are not building a gossip platform," she said. "We are not monetizing women's pain. We are building the resource I wish someone had handed me before I had to become my own emergency plan." Natalie folded her arms, proud. Victoria continued. "If this becomes cruel, we shut it down. If it becomes sloppy, we fix it. If it becomes about me, we redirect it. Understood?" Everyone nodded. The first story published on the evidence room was not Victoria's. It belonged to a nurse in Ohio whose husband drained their savings for a co-worker. The second belonged to a teacher whose in-laws locked her out after her husband's affair. The third belonged to a retired judge who wrote about leaving a marriage at 65 and sleeping peacefully for the first time in decades. Within a month, the platform had become larger than the scandal that birthed it. And that was when Sebastian truly lost. Not when investors forced him out. Not when the divorce settlement gave Victoria full control of the penthouse, primary residential custody, and repayment for misused marital funds. Not when Marissa sold apology videos to a minor streaming platform and vanished after the pilot failed. Sebastian lost when Victoria stopped being the woman he had betrayed and became the woman other people trusted. At the final divorce hearing, he sat across from her in a charcoal suit that no longer made him look powerful, just expensive. The courtroom was private. No cameras. No dramatic crowd. Only attorneys, a judge, and 2 people who had once promised forever. Sebastian looked at her before the judge entered. "Victoria." She met his eyes. "I am sorry," he said. This time, there was no camera. No host. No lower third. No performance. Maybe that was why she believed him. "Thank you," she said. His eyes reddened. "Is that all?" Victoria thought of 12 years. The wedding. The children. The first apartment. The charity galas. The nights she waited. The mornings she made excuses for the shape of her own loneliness. Then she thought of the bed selfie. The billboard. The conference room. The moment she put her ring on the table and heard freedom make a sound. "Yes," she said gently. "That is all." The judge entered. 40 minutes later, Victoria Vale left the courthouse unmarried. Outside, reporters waited despite the privacy order. Cameras rose. Questions flew. "Victoria, do you feel vindicated?" "Victoria, what would you say to Marissa?" "Victoria, any comment on Sebastian stepping down?" She paused on the courthouse steps. For one heartbeat, the city seemed to hold its breath the way it had under the billboard. Victoria looked into the nearest camera. "I hope everyone in this story becomes better than the choices that brought us here," she said. "As for me, I am going home." Then she walked away. Chapter 11. 1 year later, Victoria woke before dawn in a different bedroom. No monogrammed sheets. No inherited crystal bowl. No silent museum of a marriage that had looked perfect from the street. Her new house was a brownstone near the park, warm and imperfect, with children's sneakers by the door and a kitchen table scratched by homework, pancake syrup, and real life. Victoria liked the scratches. They meant the house was being used for living, not performing. That morning, Lily came downstairs first, hair tangled, carrying a book. Max followed with one sock on and one sock missing. Natalie would arrive at 9 for a strategy meeting. Lionel would call at 11 about the foundation arm of the evidence room. A film producer wanted rights to Victoria's story, and she planned to say no unless the project focused on resources instead of scandal. Her life was full. Not easy. Full. At breakfast, Max asked if billboards could talk. Victoria raised an eyebrow. Why? Because Dad said sometimes one sign changes everything. Lily looked at her mother carefully. Did yours? Victoria set down the spatula. She had never lied to her children, but she had learned how to give truth in portions they could carry. The sign did not change everything, she said. It showed me what had already changed. Lily nodded slowly, as if storing the answer for a future version of herself. After school drop-off, Victoria walked through the park alone. The air smelled like wet leaves and coffee carts. Her phone stayed in her coat pocket. She had learned that not every moment needed witnesses. Near the pond, an older woman approached. Victoria Vale? Victoria turned. The woman held a folded letter with both hands. I am sorry. I do not mean to bother you. I just wanted to say your platform helped my daughter leave a dangerous marriage. She had no money. No plan. She found your checklist at 3 in the morning. Victoria's throat tightened. The woman pressed the letter into her hand. You did not just embarrass a man who hurt you. You gave women a map. Then she walked away before Victoria could answer. Victoria stood under a bare tree and unfolded the letter. Inside were 3 sentences. I thought silence meant I had disappeared. Then I learned silence can be where the plan begins. Thank you for teaching me to leave with my life intact. Victoria held the paper against her chest. For a long time, she had believed the worst morning of her life began with another woman smiling from her bed. Now she understood it differently. That morning had been brutal, humiliating, unfair. But it had also been the morning she stopped protecting a lie that was slowly consuming her. Sebastian had thought betrayal would make her smaller. Marissa had thought public humiliation would make her desperate. Eleanor had thought family status would make her obedient. They had all mistaken quiet for emptiness. Quiet was never emptiness. Quiet was Victoria gathering evidence. Quiet was Victoria buying the ad space. Quiet was Victoria changing the locks, protecting her children, redirecting her money, building a platform, walking out of court, and choosing a home where peace did not require permission. That evening, she sat at her scratched kitchen table while Lily read on the couch and Max built another unstable tower, this time from wooden blocks. Natalie sent a message. The evidence room passed 10 million users today. Victoria looked at the number for a long moment. Then she put the phone face down. She did not need to stare at proof all night. Some victories were meant to be lived, not refreshed. Outside, the city glowed with thousands of screens. Somewhere, a billboard changed. Somewhere, a woman saw something that broke her heart. Somewhere, another woman opened a folder, took a breath, and decided not to beg for respect from people who had spent years spending hers. Victoria turned off the kitchen light. She was no longer the wife beneath the scandal. She was no longer the woman in the caption, the woman behind the billboard, or the woman people used as a lesson in revenge. She was simply Victoria, a mother, a builder, a woman who learned that the most powerful comeback is not always the loudest one. Sometimes it is a locked door. Sometimes it is a signed document. Sometimes it is a table where you finally sit at the head. And sometimes it is 6 plain words under a mistress's smiling face, telling the truth so clearly that the whole city has no choice but to look up. Later, people would still ask whether she regretted the billboard. Victoria always gave the same answer. She regretted the years she spent translating disrespect into excuses. She regretted every dinner where she smiled while her instincts were screaming. She regretted teaching herself to be easy to betray because being difficult felt impolite. But the billboard? No, that was not the moment she lost control. That was the moment she stopped lending her silence to people who had been spending it like money. And once a woman understands the price of her own silence, she becomes very hard to buy. Subscribe for more stories about betrayal, courage, and the quiet strength it takes to choose yourself.
Thanks for watching.